See if I can find it. Here we go. All right, so welcome to our series on artificial intelligence, and let's go ahead and get started on this. One of the ways I thought we'd look at this when we talked about artificial intelligence is on the surface of it, when you start thinking about what is artificial intelligence, it's really overwhelming. And the way that I was able to get a grasp of it is to go back to what we've talked about a lot in Parks over the years. And the thing that I find it helpful for me to be able to meet new challenges is this is really what I call a disruptive innovation. And disruptive innovations are something that we've traditionally dealt with in parks. And if you think about what the true definition of a disruptive innovation and look back over the last 10 to 15, 20 years, see the things that have really changed in the park world that are kind of new innovations, and they kind of have a disruption in the management and operation of our parks. And I think we can look at AI as maybe another disruptive innovation, at least to start with on the surface, or is it something different? But look back on how disruptive innovations have changed in the way we manage and operate parks and public lands in the last 20 years. Think about GIS and GPS technology and where that was, and when it first came out, what did that mean and how scary that was, and even things that are really simple that we take for granted, like changing in campers and campers equipment and going from 20 amp to 30 amp to 50 amp and the size of campsites and the size of campers. All these things, the computer, the phone, all of these things are really disruptive innovations. And when you start thinking about AI and you look at it big picture wise, you think, what does this have to do with parks? And then all you have to do is Google it a couple of times, another disruptive innovation, and see that it does have a lot to do with parks. So today we're going to kind of get into that. And we're real excited to have Dr. Matt Browning, who is an assistant professor here at Clemson University and the director of the Virtual Reality and Nature Lab. Dr. Browning has been with us before to talk about virtual reality and some of the cutting edge technology and what it means to park visitors and what it means to us as park professionals. So Matt has brought with him his team. And Matt, thank y'all for joining us. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and you should be able to share your screen. If not, let me know. And we'll make adjustments. And I've got a question in the chat box. I'll be monitoring chat, so y'all send me a question if you have in the chat box. And Diana asked a question, will we be providing a recording of this? Yes, we are recording it now, and we'll post that on the NASPD website probably in a couple of weeks. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you and let me know if you can share your screen or if you need anything from me. And then the way we'll do this is Matt and his team are going to talk to us a little bit about it. We'll kind of regroup, and then we'll take it out into our parks, and we're going to talk to director from South Carolina, Paul McCormick, and talk about some of the things that South Carolina is doing in some of his thoughts with AI. So Matt, thanks for being with us today. Welcome to the NASPD webinar.
Thank you, Phil. It's a pleasure to be here, particularly joined by so many wonderful lab members here in the Virtual Reality and Nature Lab. To my right is Dr. Olivia McInerney, the lab co-director, PhD candidate Shrai Yuen, and PhD student Fu Li. And we're all going to be chipping in on the talk today. So feel free to put questions in the chat as we go along. Before we actually dive into the presentation, I do want to get a little bit of feedback from you all. And this might at first seem, where's he going with this thing? But it will all become clear in just a couple minutes. So what I need you all to do in your chat, don't unmute yourself, but just in the chat box, I want you to provide me with a name of your pet. And the first person that puts their pet name in there will be the one that gets to have their pet name featured. Rango. Thank you, Rango. The next thing I need is a verb to describe something a rocket ship does.
Ooh, launch.
Thank you, Jason. The next thing I need is a department or division in your agency that sometimes gets a bad rap.
HR.
Very good. The next thing I need is an activity that should be more popular in parks than it is. All right, I'm going to rephrase that question. A activity that is more popular in parks. You know what? I'm just going to move on. We can skip that one. The next thing I need is, oh, good. We got multiple chats going on. Brilliant. Thank you, bird watching. All right, the next thing I need is a term to describe a supervisor.
Busy.
Busy. And the next thing I need is an addictive food.
French fries. Oh, good answer.
All right. With that, I'm going to reveal the big reveal here. All right. Bear with me 1 second. All right, next slide. Everything will be clear in just a few minutes.
No, you have to share it on your screen.
Go to that one. So that's a teaser for later. You have to figure out what's going on in a few minutes here. So the outline of our talk is going to be shown in 3, 2, 1 now. We're going to do some intros on artificial intelligence, some examples, tutorial on uses. We are going to do some tips on what's called prompt engineering to get you all to become experts in ChatGPT, among other things. And we're going to conclude with some resources, like some websites that you all can use. Bear with us some technical difficulties here. All right, now we are popping up. So I thought I would take it right from the mouth of the source here. Generative AI tools and models are a type of computer program designed to create new content. This could be anything from writing a piece of text, drawing a picture, composing music, or even generating a voice recording. In simple terms, they're digital artists or writers. How do they work? Imagine your brain has a recipe for making a cake. You know the ingredients, you know the steps. Generative AI works in the same way. It has a recipe or algorithm that it follows to create new things. These recipes are often based on patterns or instructions found in existing data. Now, I will say that this is right from the source. You know, this is straight from GPT version 4. If I were to describe this in a simpler way, it's what's called a series of regression models, and it's simply predicting the next word, in this case, the next word that would be coming after a word that you provide. So it's a rather dumb system in that way, but the possibilities have become endless with the advanced processing power we're now having access to. Next slide, please. An example, of course, is ChatGPT, and a way to think about what it can be done is from Avi Goldfarb and colleagues at Harvard Business Review, including GPT, who is a co-author on this paper cited here, that breaks down the writing process into 3 steps. Vetting ideas with you and your colleagues, writing them down, and then signing off on the ends. AI can allow you to skip the second part, reducing the overall time of developing and writing, but it does not, at least at this time, for the most part, vet your ideas for you. Although you can ask it to do that, arguably, you should be the one vetting the ideas and signing off at the end. Next slide, please. There is a pop-up here. This is from a common alternative type of AI, which is object detection. This is different than GPT-4, but it's a very powerful example in conservation right now. This is being used to save a bunch of poaching incidences in Savannah and elsewhere in the world. So this is a very small infrared wildlife camera that uses onboard, in other words, AI on that little tiny device that can be hidden in a tree, for example, to recognize different objects. And then when, for example, it sees poachers or certain wildlife, depending on the algorithm, it'll ping the managers who can come out and intervene. You think, well, I use wildlife cameras, or my friends do. Why do we have to have AI to do that? Well, the problem is, if you have hundreds of these cameras all over your park, you could be going through 1 million batteries over the course of several years. And that's a slight exaggeration, but if you've used wildlife cameras, you know that the battery consumption is crazy. So having onboard AI allows you to only capture and then send to the cloud the images that are relevant for your management. Next slide, please. And many of us are using this form of AI, object detection, in our apps. In a park setting, Seek from iNaturalist is excellent at identifying plants down to the species, and Merlin from the Audubon Society and Cornell is excellent at detecting a bird species based off of their song. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Common types of generative AI. Of course, there is text, which is, as I was previously talking about drafting text, but you can, as many of us have done, refine our text or edit our text by putting something we've written in there and asking it to improve it or to spell check it. You can ask it to generate ideas. You can put in text and then ask it to match another body of your text based off of the tone. And you can also ask it to outline, for example, a program. But these can be done for images too. You will see little Easter eggs in this talk where there's a little text underneath an image, and sometimes we move quickly and you might not catch it. This is for the quick-eyed or the eagle-eyed here. A lot of these are generated based off of AI, so keep a lookout for those and see if you can find them all. So it can produce images. It can also adapt images, for example, converting from a photo style to a watercolor style. It can identify, of course, things in images that we just said, and there's matching algorithms as well. Now, audio is pretty interesting. We have a treat for you today. One of our members, and you have to figure out which one here, had a mouth injury, and will be using AI to dictate his whole talk. And this was done in probably a couple hours. Most of the work was while he was able to do other tasks, so it's very easy to do, and this cost a few dollars, something like that. So you can recognize text, audio, as I mentioned in the apps earlier, but you can also create your own audio. I have not found one to create, for example, audio of different bird species, but I'll let you know if I find one. There certainly are programs to generate music and other things. And then finally, with video, you might think, well, I don't use video in what I do. Well, you can in social media. You can animate things. For example, you take a picture of some wildlife in your park, and you can use AI to generate that photo. So now it's an animated GIF to post to social media, or to make in some other marketing material, so it's more engaging.
So one of the things that I am really excited to talk with you all is, one of the things I love the best about the park system is how the interpretation or the interpretive work is done. This is a quote from the founder of the International Storytelling Center that talks about how we all like to tell stories. We all feel connected when we're telling stories. Our story today is, how do we talk about AI and bring this into the conversation? And we're not replacing people, but we're just adding to. Perfect. So how can AI support interpretive programs? One of the first things that I thought of when I thought about how can we support interpretive programs is providing context to visitors based on their prior experience. So if you know there's going to be an influx of visitors that are coming from the Florida Everglades and they're coming up to South Carolina, you can ask ChatGPT to find things that are similar between those two regions. The prompt and what happened, what it pulled out is to the right. I didn't know a lot about the Florida Everglades, but this tells me that, oh, they do a lot of things with watersheds. Those are really valued water systems. Maybe that's the connection or the first point of entry for the Florida people to be introduced to the South Carolina is these differences between the watersheds. Next slide. One of the other things that I was really excited about is AI can help support anticipating what could be a new concept or information for people. So I am originally from Maine. I visited Virginia once, and I remember being like, I know that Maine does a lot of granite. We're known as the granite, well, New Hampshire is known as the granite state, but Virginia does a lot of things too, but what are those? And they have a long history of mining, which is not the same in the North. So that would be a point, maybe something to really highlight in a presentation in about Virginia. It's just this sense that you may have to explain extra about mining practices or the different various minerals that are different than Maine. One of the other things that's really interesting is I went to college in New Hampshire. So the Old Man of the Mountain in New Hampshire, very big deal within Franconia Notch. I asked ChatGPT because I was like, I don't know if there's an answer. You always verify what ChatGPT says. But I asked for other rock formations that are really unique, like the Old Man of the Mountain was. And they listed the Kissing Camels. And originally, if I was telling a story about the Old Man of the Mountain, I wouldn't necessarily make that connection, but ChatGPT helped me embed new information and start a new conversation. And then lastly, a lot of people have big feelings off if AI should be used for interpretive programs. I let ChatGPT answer that question about how can AI support interpretive programs, and that is the text on the right-hand side. But really, our focus of our overall presentation, beyond just interpretation, is that we need to strike a balance between technology being innovative and preserving that human connection. Because I think the people who have the most rewarding jobs when I go to the state parks or the national parks is those park rangers, those educators, those naturalists, those interpreters. So we're hoping to give some tools today to help those people use AI, but not get rid of that amazing human connection that you have through the state park system.
For data analysis, ChatGPT is capable of doing some basic math, or summarizing your data set and telling you what is going on in your survey. But it is a language model that is not designed for the calculation. It will make some mistakes when turning to complex math. But it is a perfect tool for you to learn the coding language that you can use in a spreadsheet or statistics software. You could just tell it what your data looks like and what kind of analysis you want to conduct. It could generate the right coding for you to get the right output. It could also help you interpret the outcome so you can say goodbye to reading the result table and shout out a conclusion with confidence.
Just as an example here, what we're seeing is some survey data from the new state park down on the Black River. There were about 2,000 respondents from across the state. And my wife, incidentally, is actually working with some landscape architecture students to understand that data. One of the columns in that data are the zip code of respondent. And this isn't, right next to Charleston, but you might ask, well, how many of the people that took this survey are from Charleston? And one, you'd have to know all the zip codes in Charleston. Two, you'd have to go through there and do a bunch of math in Excel or Google Sheets. Alternatively, what we've done here is ask ChatGPT what proportion of these surveys are from Charleston zip codes, and then copy and paste all the zip codes in that column. And you can see ChatGPT is first identifying the zip codes in Charleston, which of course you'd want to check, and then counting the occurrences, adding those up, and then dividing by the number of zip codes in the list. And it found that there were a certain percentage of the zip codes from that area. So this is a simple use of statistics that, as Fu here has described, might be appropriate for using AI on.
Yes, another application for using AI in our event planning is that we can use it to help us to check our program, fine-tune the narratives, and make sure that everything is good for our audience. Here is a example that we just type in the a proposed program and just asking the ChatGPT to sorry, there is a glitch on the video. Okay. Just type in the our instruction to the ChatGPT and let him to do a fine check with us, and it suggests us to check the program and make sure that the language is appropriate for the 3rd grader, and also let us to check our vocabulary list because it's not match our educational program's theme. So ChatGPT will be very useful when you do something like a programming or writing a script for you, and it can be prepare you from unexpected question. You're just asking like, what kind of question a 3rd grader will be asking, and he will help you to prepare everything that will be happen in your programs.
And to build on what Fu said, the prompt that we added here was an adult program and adapted for a 3rd grader. So not only is the vocabulary changed, the tone of voice, the activities, but then the questions that the people attending the program, in this case 3rd graders, might be asking based off of its understanding of what that what a 3rd grader might be interested in.
With ChatGPT is also good for communication. This is one of the most appreciated functions by lots of businesses. If we need to send out some newsletter of our event to the district, we just need to simply ask ChatGPT to write that for us. Also, it could create a pamphlet design, translate your park sign, generate a presentation outline, and write the whole script for you if you have provided sufficient material.
And lastly, ChatGPT is only a language model that can predict words, but right now there's a lot of new models that can generate image or videos or music from text or vice versa. Here's an example that we need to generate a cover for our pamphlet, and I just asking ChatGPT to generate 2 children playing in a stream, and we can add additional instruction like we want to make that scene in autumns, and those kids should be happy, and it will generate an image for you within a seconds. And then if you are not happy about it, if you can just ask him to generate again. Those AI machine won't be complaining about it. You can generate like 1 million times. Also, you can right now there are current another models that can generate movies, music, and all the other stuff that is fundamentally changing the content creative business. Like you can generate a whole movie right now for the ChatGPT. You can Google in, you can go to YouTube and find a lot of resources and good movies that is currently produced by an AI model.
A language AI.
I'm sorry. So that being said, let me tell you the truth. ChatGPT is often not useful. So
You can continue.
Okay. So ChatGPT often gives us some like irrelevant response or something silly, not useful. And I think many of you and I have experienced that very commonly. So this is why today we want to also introduce how to make ChatGPT a better communicator. Before I tell you any techniques or tips, let's think about two communication patterns shown in the two pictures. So in the first picture, we see a person holding a sign, trying to communicate with another person across the river. But just because of the sign can only deliver several words, it's so hard to allow them to really have another person know his needs. For example, it's really like you receiving a message from a visitor with only a question in the subject line. We have no idea how to respond to it. However, with the bridge being built, the two persons can come together and make a successful conversation. So just imagine we are one of the person and ChatGPT is another person. The bridge here is prompt engineering. It's a technical jargon, but don't worry, it just means we can use better prompts to make more relevant and useful responses. And today I want to introduce three pillars or three strategies of prompt engineering. They are adding rows, context, and expected results to their prompts, using more precise description. And finally, if the question is too complex, just break it down to doable steps or smaller topics. And I will be focusing on the first one and use examples so everyone can know it. Okay, imagine we have the initial prompt, how to manage wildlife encounter, ? We send this to ChatGPT, and how might it respond initially? So it gives us a list of 10 bullets. However, if you look at it, you find ChatGPT just assume you are a visitor. It just think, oh, you guys need some safety tips. So then you give you the safety tips. However, that's it less relevant to park management. That's just for the visitors. But what if we apply the first strategy? Then the result would change. If we change our prompts, now it gives us 5 topics around wildlife management, but it's around the purpose of environmental education, and they also introduced relevant topics like animal behavior, conservation efforts, and doing photography for social media. So what did we do? What did we do is to literally adding row, context, and expected result. And for the row, I just ask ChatGPT that you are a scientist in ecology, and this makes sure that the result is more reliable and scientific based. And we also add the context of this is for an education session for park visitors. And also we say we expect 5 possible topics, and also the relevance of those topics with our park and our audience. That's the way we make the result more useful. And there are 2 additional strategies which I will move on very quickly because of the time. So for the process description, I tend to edit the location of the park, and I say, ChatGPT, you should give me two additional factors that could matter in the successful education session. And then in the result, we saw so many specific animals in the southeastern US because we add the parks in this region. And we also see those animals such as snakes, alligators are related to safety. And also the bird watching and fireflies are related to conservation. So those things are related. Now, the last piece of strategy is the most interesting one, because it really allows you to apply your prior knowledge in communication. It's breaking down the complex topics. So I did 6 steps, which is breaking down it to 6 prompts. If you are interested, please take a screenshot or view the recording again. I apologize for the rush. But I do trust everyone here has brilliant communication strategies, and you can apply those strategies and play with ChatGPT. I do want to emphasize the key takeaway is changing your communication pattern. Instead of using few words in your question, like holding a sign, just try to approach it like making a meeting agenda or interview script, like for someone you have never met with. So here are some other tips. Practice together because it's a skill, it's a craft, and share the skills with your collaborators. And also always evaluate and fact check its responses. And the third one, we also need to protect sensitive information. For example, don't let ChatGPT know that your park is storing nuclear weapons, because that's very sensitive. But even if you don't have nuclear weapon, you can still
Thanks, Try. So
sorry, we're running out of time.
let me give you the big reveal here. What you all did in the beginning was write your own press release. We are launching NASPD AI-based Rango, promising to launch outdoor experiences. The HR division of NASPD, in fact, thrilled to introduce an unprecedented leap in the realm of AI and visitor engagement. This system will launch park visits like never before. We're not just talking about a new version of Google Maps, said Phil Gaines. This is Siri on French fries for squirrels. Among its many key features, text-based adventures, no need to consult a park ranger. Text Ringo, you get advice not only on pickleball, but also stargazing. AI-powered photography identifies the perfect location to snap a picture, a selfie with. Virtual tours can't travel. AI will send you video footage of the old man on the mountain from perspectives you can't find in person or on YouTube. Eco Edu travel trivia games earn points by answering questions about invasive species. High scores win junior ranger badges. The tool is now being tested in parks across the country, even the good ones with AHR. So with that, I want to switch over, and we have a few resources for you all, and we'll allow then from some parks to explain their series with AI. Next slide, please. I do want to summarize, though, before I give you those resources, that obviously we are advocating that there are some amazing possibilities with this, but we recognize that it is a little bit creepy at times, and it's still going to be used. So even if you're hesitant to use this, realize that the more people in parks using this appropriately, the better we'll all be able to understand its potentials and limitations. And that is a picture of me generated by AI giving this talk. So next slide, please. Here is a list of resources and websites we do recommend. Of course, the cost is obviously always a question. Most of these have free versions that you can use on a limited term basis, and then a lot of them are something around $10 to $30 a month. Some ones to point out that we use today for language, we use primarily OpenAI's ChatGPT-4. For images, we use Midjourney, which is actually run through an app called Discord, if you've heard of that. Audio, Fu's Voice for those slides were created by 11 Labs, and there's some video resources there as well. So Phil, I think we have some time to transition to the next group before our questions, but that concludes our slideshow from here.
Excellent. Thank you, team. We did have one question that was kind of asking about are there copyright issues when you use things like Chat GPT and some of the legal questions? And I know some of that, just based on my research, some of that is with any new technology or any new disruptive innovation. We're still, as they say in the legal field, building case law and kind of figuring out what to do. But from y'all's experience, is there copyright issues?
Right now, there's a huge controversy in the legal community, and they are taking action to make sure that ChatGPT, all the generated AI product is covered by somehow of copyright legislation. But for right now, most of the products is the copyright is owned by the producer, which is the AI. And you can use it, and all of it is like, if it's not for business, you can safely to use that. But also I want to remind that for the ChatGPT one, like if you are doing that for academia or maybe do some like publishing, that will be a serious issue because you will consider as plagiarism. And,
Plagiarism.
Yeah, plagiarisms. But for like daily uses, like the copyright issue is still in a gray area. People try to define it, but right now it just like nobody know what we could define that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one of the things is when there is new technology, to be cautious and do all the due diligence involved in that. And this is kind of breaking new ground and new territory as we start learning about the things. And I know there was a lot of talk about plagiarism and you know, if you use it for, you know, development of literature or those kind of things or collateral, that there will be some copyright issues. So be sure to check, you know, with your folks in your agency with legals and those kind of things. And I know that one of the things that is out there for state park systems, anytime there's new things from social media back in the day to GIS, GPS, there's always this reluctance, if you will, from your IT departments and, you know, trying to keep you and all your information and data safe and stuff. So I know that it's a challenge out there. But I think it's safe to say that, you know, this is kind of at the forefront and a lot of stuff is going on. And we're kind of like drinking water out of a fire hose right now. There's so much stuff out there as we nail it down and kind of narrow our focus on it. But I thought it was very fascinating. I love the comment about that we would enhance and not replace. I think that's important for us to walk away with, because that's what we do in parks. We're about connections and connecting folks to each other and to the resources that we protect. And this is one of the ways that we can look at doing that. I look back and when I was coming up through, and you know, the things that have happened with things that we take for granted now, like, you know, Googling things and spell check, and you know, the old story about your math teacher that says don't use your calculator because you're not always going to have a calculator in your pocket. And then who knew? We always have a calculator in our pocket now. We call it a phone, just like we have an encyclopedia and everything else at our fingertips. So breaking ground. So thank you guys. If you'll stick around, we may have some time for some more questions, but let's kind of lead into what we like doing on our webinars is taking these broad applications and then bringing them back home. And so I'm going to ask Director of South Carolina State Parks, Paul McCormick, if Paul, if you could kind of take us into some of the challenges and opportunities that you've seen as a director, and what's some of the things that South Carolina is doing. And it's got to be fascinating and scary at the same time as a director, knowing that all of this is out here. And how do you navigate through this new world?
Yeah, sure. And following up behind Dr. Browning and his team, who did such a fantastic job. I was sitting here taking notes and learned so much from their presentation. I'm kind of an AI hobbyist, I think is the best way to describe my passion for it. And about 6 months ago, I asked our IT director to come and speak to us because we had some of our staff starting to play with ChatGPT and some of the other AI platforms, and wanted to find out, so where are we going in parks with this? A couple of things that I realized that kind of helped me along. You know, I've got 28 years with the Park Service, Phil, kind of like you. You see the progression of government agencies resisting stuff, and then by the time it's pervasive and you can't resist it anymore, getting on board. And we've been using AI, like Dr. Browning in his class said, with Merlin and Plant ID. You and I remember going in with a backpack with 4 field books, and you'd flip through and know how to look up the stem. Now you take a picture of it and it tells you what it is. Now you record the bird and it tells you what it is. So we've kind of already been using AI, Alexa at our home, things like that recognizes our voice. So how do we use it in parks? We kind of started off, our retail guy really started diving into it. We have an online store but that we sell things through. And rather than generate all the content for that online store, he started using prompts and having AI write the little prompts. Said, I need 100 words describing this, make it flowery. Then he started using it for emails, and he started using it for notes, and he started sharing it with the rest of us. And we kind of got on board using AI, and some of the things that I've learned about it is as they said, it's a large language model. And I think one of the things that scares us about this is it can seem interactive as opposed to a tool that we use. Normally, we're very comfortable with learning how to use a tool and mastering a tool. Mastery of this tool makes the tool more useful, and you have to keep learning with the tool. And I think that's a challenge for us. And where do we draw the line on what we write and what we advertise with AI? So I did want to share some of the things that we've done, that I've done specifically, what I've used this for. So I've kind of used AI as a brainstorming device. I'll go in when I'm having, and Phil Gaines was my predecessor, and he wrote a newsletter a month. And let me tell you what a stupid idea that was. I'm sorry for all the people on this, but it's like the mail, it never stops coming. So each month when you sit down and have to write a newsletter and you have to come up with ideas, putting some prompts into AI to come up with some stuff has really helped me generate some creativity in what I want to write. And then taking what I've written and putting it back in and asking it to edit it has been another great tool for me. I've dumped in emails that I wanted to write a response to and ask for a response, and then been able to edit that response or use that response. And we've talked, and also I've used it to help plan meetings. I put in, I want to have a meeting on this subject. And I have learned, and when I started down this road, and one of your students talked about this, is the first use of this was one prompt, and you'd get an answer and you'd think that was it. And then I realized you get conversational with this tool. So, oh, that's great. Can you change it to this? And one of the things that I've done, and I'm going to share my screen real quick if I can, Phil. And I'm not going to be nearly as technically adept at this, but I want to share, and I've pre-written some prompts just to give everybody a sense, because I think sometimes seeing what's written and the answers and seeing how it generates it is a little more impressive as to what the possibilities are. So I wrote a couple of prompts ahead of time, asking for help with a news article, for example. So if I put this prompt in here, write a newsletter about the benefits of walking trails in South Carolina state parks, and then you hit generate, and all of a sudden it kicks out just this rapidly, this idea for me. And I now have the body of a newsletter that I can edit, I can throw away, I can say I don't like it, I can ask it to regenerate it again. And if I don't like the way it's writing it, then you can limit the amount goes through. I can say, you know what, add some funny stories to this, or anecdotes. And I generate it again, and it'll add some anecdotes in there for me, and it does it just that fast. And there's other tools out there, Bard, which does a similar thing. And one of the things that Bard does that's a little bit different is when you generate Bard, and I'm sure somebody can explain this a lot better than I can. Bard seems to think the whole thing through and then generate, whereas ChatGPT generates as you go. Bard always throws in some pictures, or not always, but you can also see, you saw my prompt, and we're throwing North Carolina in there. So it does make mistakes. And the other thing Bard does that I like is it'll throw some drafts in there. So it'll give you a couple of different choices to look at. And this is just a tool that I find is helpful to get the creative juices flowing sometimes. And then, so we are having a storm come up tonight. And I thought of this prompt right before this class, and I haven't used it yet, so I don't know what's going to generate. But what I want to do is send something out to the team. You're all getting to see my incredible technical skills right now. Send something out to the team that encourages them before a storm. So I go in here, say, and compose this email message, and it'll generate this email message that I can now send out to the staff to kind of talk about the storm and storm preparedness. And again, it gives me a starting point. So it takes my job from 20 minutes down to 5 minutes. If I like that, I just go over to the clipboard, cut and paste it right into an email. If I want to generate it some other way, I can add little prompts about and make it more stylistic. One of the fun things I like to do for people, and I've done it a couple times, is just to help lighten the load, or when your creativity isn't necessarily where you think you can get it. If I want to thank Clemson today for their work today and I don't, or for having me on this call today, I can just take the prompt, add it in here, say, you know what, I'm not going to get that creative. Well, that's not going to do it. But I bet AI can get creative for me and help me write a Shakespearean sonnet to thank them for their work. Let's see if I lost it, didn't I? Yeah.
I saw it on there earlier.
I did too.
So,
There
so
we
Paul,
go.
while you're
There
looking
it
at
is.
this, while you're looking for that, so I know there's a lot of folks on the webinar with us today that are experts at this or have been using, playing with it. Some of us, first time we've ever seen this. So the programs that you've used, these last two right here, is there a cost for those or are those free?
These are the free, and some of the programs you guys are using probably at the college level, or some of the paid program. ChatGPT 4 is a little more advanced, and some of it has to do with like ChatGPT 3 was fed pretty much the internet, as I understand it, pre-December 2021. So you don't get up-to-date issues on there. Now, some of the issues we've talked about with parks is, so if we're going to use this as an editing tool, for example, when we dump things into there, ChatGPT learns from everything we put into that device. So if we put information in there, for example, about we work on land negotiations in our office, and if we're trying to edit something about a land negotiation we're having with somebody, we ask it to edit there. It then becomes part of what ChatGPT and the other systems learn. So that information could generate from somebody else's prompt all of a sudden because it's learned that information about us. So we have to be careful not to put identifying things in there. We write leases and things like that. If we're asking for help writing a lease or a negotiation, making sure that we don't put any identifying information in there so that ChatGPT doesn't learn that and use that knowledge to help somebody else generate a lease later on. So that's some of the concerns we have about how to use it and what kind of information we put in there. We've used it for draft policies as we're starting to think about things. It can search the internet and help us, again, a jumping off point. You want to draft a policy for e-bikes on parks, for example, rather than starting from scratch or going out and asking every park director to send you their thing. You can say, can I please have a draft policy on e-bikes? Or right now we're getting some of those mechanical wheelchairs, the electric wheelchairs in the parks. And I have a draft policy on how to check those out. And those draft policies, again, are jumping off points. I think it has the ability to save us time if we use it appropriately and to help us move along further. One of the quotes as I was getting ready for this and reading up on some of the AI, one of the, I think it was the CEO, I wrote down Sundar, I can't say Pichai from Google. And he made the comment that you talk about this as a disruptor. He compared this to the invention of fire and electricity. Under control, fire has allowed us to cook, to heat our homes, to stay in one place. Electricity has given us so many convenience, but out of control, those are also the things that are really dangerous. A fire out of control or a lightning strike, which is concentrated electricity, can really cause problems. So I think learning how to use these tools are exciting opportunities for us. And the last thing I thought was really interesting when we talk about AI and some of the dangers on my son, as you know, Phil, lives in Maui. And on August 10th, Amazon posted a book called Fire and Fury, the story of the Maui wildfires. It became their #1 bestseller in the environmental science category for a couple of days. It was a 44-page book produced by artificial intelligence. And it all of a sudden became, I saw it used in so many different ways inappropriately as, look, this is the federal government planned these fires. They already had a book ready to go.
Yeah.
How does somebody write this so quickly? So, I mean, AI is a tool like any other tool. And I think it's incumbent on us to try and learn early how to use it correctly.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. And I also think I love the part that you talked about where it helps you to do some brainstorming and like for interpretive programs and general public programs. What a great opportunity for parks that don't have staff interpreters there to maybe brainstorm with an interpreter or brainstorm with some park rangers of what could be some park level programming and run it through AI and then run it up through the chain of, seeing if it's going to work and having some other people look at it. So,
two of the things that excite me the most, and I really enjoyed the part where they had the cameras that the AI cameras that were documenting things. I'd never I read that about that ability, but I hadn't seen that until you put that slide up there earlier. I think that's going to be a vital tool, but also people are already using them, and sooner or later there will be a company that is knocking on every state park's door saying, "Hey, I've got a virtual ranger here to help you answer questions." And when you walk up to a park kiosk, you'll ask a virtual ranger an audio question, and the virtual ranger will answer that question for you. And that's not gonna solve a staffing issue. That's not gonna make staff get rid of staff, but that is going to provide another resource to visitors. And a lot of our visitors, and if you have the younger generation, nobody wants to call and order a pizza and talk to anybody anymore. You want to do it on an app. You want to do it on your phone. You don't want that interaction. You just want that quick answer. To be able to walk up to a kiosk and say, "Hey, what's there to do here? What's the best thing to use for fishing? Or are there sites available tonight?" And have an AI virtual assistant answer that question, I think is going to be a great service for visitors and for parks around the country. And I'm positive there's going to be a company out there producing it in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think it's exciting and tremendous opportunities. I've always thought when we started, modernizing things over the years with computers and technology and stuff, the more time that frees you up to do the mundane task of writing and doing all this kind of stuff, the more time is available for you to have one-on-one interaction with that park visitor to make those connections that make parks so special. And this is just another one of those tools that when it first comes out, it's overwhelming. It's like, what are we going to do this? And think back over the last decade of the tools that have come out that really scared us, from GIS to GPS to drones. We're using drones now for things that we never thought. When drones first came out, it was like, oh my goodness, everybody's going to use them to, disrupt visitation and all that stuff. And now we use them for, fire management, resource management, cultural resource management, those kind of things. So I think there's a lot of things to look at as we go down this road and start seeing what the good uses are from AI. And based on what I saw from you today, Paul, I'm thinking that you should do a weekly newsletter now instead of a monthly newsletter. Wouldn't that be fun?
I'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Great deal. Good stuff. So let me share my screen. Thank you guys so much, Paul and Matt and your team. A lot of stuff, man. That's a really informative and a lot to think about. If you have any questions, please let me know, and we'll try to answer those questions. This will be posted on the NASPD website, and I want to go over just a couple other little things as a reminder for NASPD's national annual conference will be held in a couple of weeks, September 12th through the 15th in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Looking forward to that, and I know NASPD is looking forward to that too. And lots of information will be gathered there in Nevada. And also, there's more webinars on the way. We're going to continue to do these. We want to hear what's going on out in the field. We really want to hear from you, and that'll kind of help dictate the questions that we can ask to find out, cutting edge things and provocative topics that we've had in the past year to be able to bring to our membership. So thank you guys so much for joining us today, and Matt and your team at Clemson University, and Paul here in South Carolina. Thank you guys so much. Learned a lot to take in. If you need some more of these information, we'll send some of that stuff out, and it'll be on our NASPD website in a couple of weeks. So y'all stay safe. A lot of the folks that are in the Southeast, batten down the hatches, and hope everything goes well. Stay safe on the Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you in the parks. Thank y'all. Have a great week.
Thank you, Phil.
I'll stick around. If anybody has any questions, pop me a chat and I'll make sure that I can hear you. If not, I'll see you guys out in the parks. Clemson team, thank y'all so much. That was awesome.
Thank you, Phil. Our pleasure. Couldn't have done it without everyone here.
Good job, guys. Good job. Fascinating topic. So much to kind of think about and what can be done and what's scary and what's exciting too. I can.
Well, I was really happy at how well the slide deck we had complemented Paul's. It was like a perfect match. So you must have orchestrated that in the back end.
Well, we just kind of talked a little bit about what we do, and and one of the things that I hope that came across to the NASPD that I know, whether folks can talk about it or not, I know in my career, anytime there was new technology or new what I call disruptive innovation, it's really hard to get proactive with it because so many IT departments that are in government, are like, don't go there, don't use this, don't do that. And so that's part of the challenge too with government agencies is to be able to do innovative things without, the technology people and the legal folks saying, no, you can't do that, don't do that. It's gonna get us in trouble. So knowing how to walk up to that line without crossing it is also, part of what you got to do sometimes. So it's a lot of interesting times ahead for AI, but I see a lot of benefits. I know it can be scary too, but man, I just think of how many times that I've been in the office where there's a park that had good visitation, but we didn't have an interpreter there, and that rangers led programs and rangers did programs, and this would be a really good way to expedite developing a campfire program or a program based on your park if you just feed in the information. Pretty exciting.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Well,
Thanks
we appreciate
a lot.
the invite, Phil.
Thanks a whole bunch. Holler if you ever need me.
We'll see you around.
Okay, see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.